we have one last short but important keynote on the trends and challenges in enforcing existing and new laws in connection with AI systems. I think what Lee is going to talk about will gracefully build on some of the things that we have heard in the previous conversations. And so without further ado, let me pass on the floor to Mrs. Lee Tiedrich, Distinguished Fellow for Ethical Technology at Duke University. The floor is yours, Lee.
And it's an honor to participate in the Athens Roundtable, which truly stands out as one of the most consequential AI convenings. As Nico said, my topic today is emerging trends and challenges in AI enforcement. Enforcement is important, and this concept is reflected in the OECD AI principles, which underscore the need for accountability. And this makes a lot of sense because we'll never achieve our trustworthy AI goals if affected individuals and others cannot appropriately redress harms caused by AI. That said, enforcement needs to be consistent with other OECD AI principles, such as promoting inclusive growth, sustainable development, and well-being. This principle embraces the notion of encouraging investment in AI research and development. And therein lies one of the challenges. Specifically, how can we foster AI enforcement so it appropriately redresses harms, but does not unnecessarily chill responsible innovation? To help respond to this challenge, in addition to having appropriate laws and policies, we must continue to focus on the following 3 actionable steps. First, we need to build appropriate AI enforcement capacity. Second, we need to develop AI standards and related tools. And third, we need to decide AI cases based on the relevant facts. And I'll talk briefly about each of these. Turning first to building AI enforcement capacity, simply put, we need to do this because, as you've heard throughout this conference, the AI enforcement landscape is burgeoning. And this trend will likely continue, particularly as the US ramps up federal and state enforcement and builds upon the AI Bill of Rights, and as the EU moves towards adopting an AI Liability Directive and the EU AI Act, and revising the Products Liability Directive, which collectively will make it easier for individuals and others to bring cases and obtain significant remedies. The AI enforcement landscape sheds important light on how we can build appropriate enforcement capacity to meet this growing demand. For instance, it demonstrates that there is no cookie cutter case for AI enforcement. Instead, the actions span several issues and industries and have resulted in a range of remedies, including monetary fines and injunctive relief. To give you a sense of this variety, cases involving AI have arisen in several contexts, such as facial recognition technology, fair housing, lending, employment, as you heard about earlier today, surveillance, and the criminal justice system. Collectively, the cases have presented many challenging issues involving consumer protection, privacy, discrimination, civil rights, intellectual property, due process, equal protection, freedom of speech, product liability, and other legal matters, including in the US, the scope of Section 230 immunity, which is subject of a pending US Supreme Court case. The takeaway is that we need appropriate AI enforcement capacity that has the deep expertise and other resources to make well-informed decisions about which cases to bring, to pursue these cases efficiently and effectively, and to seek remedies that are appropriately tailored to address the harms. Now, turning to the second actionable step, whether we're applying well-established laws such as our longstanding anti-discrimination laws to AI, or interpreting new laws such as the EU AI Act once it comes into effect, effective enforcement should be easier if we have standard and related tools that can help measure compliance with such laws in a way that integrates sound science. This is yet another reason why we need to prioritize developing the measurement tools discussed earlier today, and also this will help achieve global harmonization. To illustrate, I'll focus on an example from the pending EU AI Act, which discusses the need to train AI models on high-quality data sets. It states that data sets should be, quote, sufficiently relevant, representative, and free from errors, and complete in view of the intended purposes of the system, unquote. Simply put, to enable fair and effective enforcement of this type of requirement, we need to establish standards and other tools that give this language more meaning. We are working on some of these issues at Duke, and I would suggest that the standards be crafted so that data quality is assessed based on the relevant use case. In other words, the challenge is assessing whether the training data is fit or suitable for the AI system's intended purpose. Finally, we cannot lose sight of the importance of the underlying facts of each individual case, as cookie-cutter approaches that don't properly consider the facts won't lead to optimal enforcement. You heard earlier today how risks and use cases vary among AI applications. To further illustrate this point, as an example, I'll focus on evaluating the important question of who should be held liable for causing AI harms. This is very relevant because, as you've heard today, some jurisdictions, including the EU and the US, want to provide flexibility to hold AI developers and deployers liable in certain circumstances. A couple cases addressing these issues, however, highlight the importance of analyzing liability in the context of the relevant facts. We've had one case in which the AI developer was not held liable because the customer considered other factors in terms of rendering a decision. In contrast, in another case, Connecticut Fair Housing versus CoreLogic, it was held liable. The takeaway is that even with appropriate enforcement capacity and measurement tools, we cannot lose sight of the facts, and our judiciary will have an important role in helping us maintain this focus. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Lee. I think indeed your keynote brought together a lot of the things that we discussed today. So I appreciate you trying to bundle things together, especially under this time constraint. I think it painted a great concluding picture over a lot of what we discussed over the past 2 days. So thanks a lot.